This is Kyle Cornforth, the director of the Edible Schoolyard program in Berkeley, California. We work at King Middle School, and we run a summer academy for 90 participants who come to us from all over the world and train with us for 4 days. This year we have decided to extend the academy for one more day of programming to include some of the needs and feedback that we've been given over the past 5 years that we've been doing the program from our participants. And to start us off, I've asked Jill McCarthy, who is from the Whole Kids Foundation and who was a participant with us at the Academy last year, to start us off by giving just some feedback about her experience with us last year. And then what we'll do is just have an open opportunity for any of you to, pipe in and ask questions and get any clarification about the program or, share whether you're thinking of coming or not. So, Jill, if I could ask you to come on and introduce yourself and tell us what you do, and then also if you could just give us a bit of information about what you experienced at the Academy last year.
Sure. Thanks, Kyle. So my name is Jill McCarthy. I am with Whole Foods Market, and I liaise for Whole Kids Foundation. One of my roles is working to support school gardens, school salad bars, community gardens in a lot of different capacities, some hands-on, some through support financially, and Whole Kids Foundation has the Garden Grant Program. So that's an opportunity for us to get our communities involved and get them the funding they need to continue or start their school garden projects. So that's something that we help to select the garden grants through our region, and there's someone kind of like me around the company that works with Whole Kids Foundation. So I was really interested in coming to the program last year for my perspective of networking with teachers and volunteers and coordinators, everyone who's involved with making sure that gardens are happening or getting the resources they need for gardens and understanding what some of their challenges are. My position, it's one thing to give funding, but it's another thing to understand really what maybe people are up against or maybe what some of their challenges are. And also maybe look at our program in a different way to make sure that we're offering, what is needed. And when Kyle asked me to join the call, I started kind of reflecting back on my experience last year, and the first word that came to mind for me was organized. And I know that may sound kind of crazy and underwhelming that you're going to this event that's organized, except for the fact that your time is really valuable, and often you go to these conferences or events or you're asked to participate in a meeting, and you're either not sure what you got out of it or what you accomplished, or there was a lot of wasted time, or maybe you didn't have the resources that you needed. And the reality about Edible Schoolyard is you're giving up, and the Academy is that you're giving up really valuable time that you could either be in the summertime home with your families or in your school planning for next year, and there's a cost for all of us to go, and they make the most out of your time. And they really take your time to heart, and they really consider that you have, given up your time to come and learn and be inspired and to network and to grow, and you leave feeling like you spent the most of your time in the best possible way. And for me, that was really important. And I think for the teachers and the other community organizers and the volunteers that were there, they had a similar experience where the way that they spent their time was the best possible way. And then I think the second thing would be that they just become a tremendous resource and people that you can always lean back on and reach out to and share your challenges with and share your successes with. And they're there to kind of help move you along or help keep you inspired. The last thing, and I'll let it go from there, is that typically the teachers and the volunteers and folks that come to this, and myself and my team member who came, we're not people that sit around a lot. We're not people that like idle time, where we typically need to move and need to be engaged. And we were engaged the entire time. We had our hands in projects. We had access to tools that maybe we use at home or being used for the first time, and that for people that would be concerned about kind of sitting around and just taking in information, that's not what this conference is. It's really about getting your hands, no pun intended, in the dirt and really getting into the garden and into the food system and into the program and knowing it because you've experienced it. So that's it for me in a nutshell, and I hope that covers what you were looking for, Kyle, and I'm glad to answer any questions.
It's great feedback to hear. Thank you so much for sharing. And the other thing that I'll share about the experience that we had working with Jill last year is that I asked her to play a dual role in the training, and she helped me facilitate one of the sessions around fundraising, and she brought in some of the high-scoring and low-scoring grants from the previous cycle of the Whole Kids Foundation granting, and we looked at each example, and Jill talked all of the participants through what kinds of things the grant scorers were looking for and pointing out very specific things that had been done very well or that could have been done better to make a grant, get the grant. So Jill's input in that was really helpful, and participants really walked away appreciating that information in that session. So to all of the other participants on the call, and I know one person did also beep in there, this is a chance for you to unmute yourself and ask a question of me, and you can also ask a question of Jill, and there are a couple of other Edible Schoolyard staff on the line who may help to jump in and answer questions. So is there anyone who is on the line who'd like to ask something?
Hi, Kyle. This is Kurt from Edible Schoolyard NYC. I'm calling. We've got several staff members who are interested in coming to the Academy this year. Several of our staff members have been to the Academy in the past. Most of them are teachers of ours, garden teachers. I think our Director of Education has maybe been at least to visit the program, and some have been to the Academy. But a lot of the people who are able to come this year aren't necessarily in the program staff and the teaching staff. So you touched a little bit about Jill's role last year about fundraising. Like, that's something I'm really interested in. What other ways do you engage other types of employees, like the communications department, the operations department? How would they benefit from the Academy?
That's a great question. So the way that the agenda is shaped for the Academy is to honor and to just acknowledge that for many of us who are doing these jobs, we play one specific role, but our work also bleeds out into a lot of different areas. And, I have an office job, but I also need to understand how the kitchen classroom works and what our theory of practice is in the classroom when we're engaging with the students. And I need to know that also for the garden classroom. So the agenda is shaped to actually have a day of garden programming, a day of kitchen programming, and a day of organizational development. So for someone who is in a more administrative role or who's in a development role, there's a full day of programming that's just suited towards, how we run things in the office. What is the back of the house system? How do we run our volunteer program, and how do we, recruit and train and retain our volunteers? What are some best practices that we utilize for fundraising? How do we use social media and our website to network and expand our reach and share our story? How do we evaluate our program? What our experience was with school lunch reform, and what were some of the lessons learned from that experience? We have a presentation from the UC Center for Weight and Health, who ran our school lunch initiative survey and study, and she comes and talks participants through that experience and that body of research, and what tools can be gleaned from that for you to use in writing your grants, or to leverage our experience to, to talk about the work that you're doing. And then the other days are suited towards program people, but I will say that for anyone who is in the role of sharing and talking about the work, there's no time wasted in really digging into what that on-the-ground and hands-in-the-dirt work is, so that when you talk about it, you're talking about it from a place of experience instead of a place of theory, and that anyone who is rooted in those things will only be better at doing the sort of administrative side of the job. Does that answer your question?
Definitely. Thank you so much, Kyle. It's perfect.
Okay.
Hi,
there was
Kyle.
someone else. Okay, good.
Oh, this is Stacy from the Edible Schoolyard Project, and I was wondering if you could speak to how you handle training educators who are in, say, K through 5 schools who may have a different, focus for their curriculum than the Edible Schoolyard Berkeley does, since it is a middle school.
Sure. So this is a wonderful challenge and opportunity that we've grappled with over the last few years of our academy development, because we do work in a middle school setting, and our strength is really in sharing what we have done in middle school. And this year, what we've decided to do is to do a lot of staff and professional development for the team of the Edible Schoolyard here. So we've all been doing lots of site visits and field trips to different local and regional garden and kitchen programs who are in K-5 or who are in high school settings. And we've been looking at, how is the program ran? How does the staffing work? How many times do kids come to the classes? What is the content being delivered in those classes? What is the system and infrastructure that they have set up just for the, physical space of the garden or the kitchen classroom? Often we're looking at places that have a smaller garden area or no kitchen classroom or a smaller kitchen classroom. So we're really trying to just build our own capacity as professional development, trainers of trainers to say, what have we seen that's working in all of these different places? So we're building our own toolbox in that way. And then the other thing that we've added this year is to do some of those site visits with the participants. So one day, about 3/4 of one of the days of programming will be people going to 3 different school sites in Berkeley to look at smaller programs that are in K-5 and to meet with the staff there and to hear about the programs there, in the hopes that people will, begin to be able to integrate what they're learning while they're at the Edible Schoolyard, and also having the opportunity to see scaled up or down models of curriculum and infrastructure.
Thank you, Kyle.
Mm-hmm. Does anyone else have a question?
Kyle, this is Rachel.
Hi, Rachel.
Hi there. I am very, very interested. We have a couple gardens here in Sacramento, one at Martin Luther King Jr. Elementary School, which I believe serves K through 6, and then the other is at the Sacramento Children's Home. So do you come into other areas and do those site visits? And would it be possible for our colleagues to be able to both attend the academy but also to see some of those other locations?
Do you mean for our staff to come to you?
Well, I was just wondering if you came out of Berkeley to see the other locations and see if there was a consulting aspect to what
yeah,
you do.
That's a great question. And first, it would be really wonderful to have your team or some of your team join us this summer. And I will say that I'm currently working on some kind of program that would include either a mid-year 1 to 2 day site visit to the Edible Schoolyard. So one of the things that the Academy doesn't offer is the opportunity to see students in action in the program. And it's challenging to get middle school kids who are in their first week of summer break to want to come back to school and hang out with us. So we're looking to develop a sort of, something that could be offered from September to June before school gets out. So there may be an opportunity for your team to come back during the school year. And in addition to that, we are developing some program where we would be able to go to sites and offer 1 or 2 day trainings. That will be kind of in development over the next 6 months.
Hey, Kyle, this is Janet.
Hello.
I was glancing at the application earlier to question that I believe I might have been interpreting it wrong, but has to do with how our organization would contribute back to the Academy. And I was just curious if you could give some examples of what other organizations, have done along those lines.
So there have been a few instances where, like in working with Jill, I saw an application, or we saw an application that really piqued our interest for being able to bring something to the table for the training, and I've done that a couple of different times. So there may be an opportunity for you to share the work of Soil-Borne Farms. There's going to be this year a networking opportunity in the evening, so that's another need that we have noticed, is that people are so engaged all day long that the time to sort of decompress and talk to each other has been lacking, so we're including that piece. And then we usually do a kind of where everyone has an opportunity to contribute. It's kind of hard to explain, but it's sort of like a sharing circle where someone says, I have a problem with X, Y, or Z, and someone else says, I can help you with that. And we do that until the whole circle has been filled, and then people turn and share. And we're also hoping to use the FaceTime that we have this year with people at the Academy to ask people to take that conversation online. So there may be an opportunity for you to take the lead at the end of the training to say, okay, I'm going to host this sort of in-person beginning of a conversation about urban farming and education and having a field trip-based program like you do. And we're going to say, okay, anyone who is interested in learning more about that can go and talk to Janet in that corner, and we would like for you to have, a half an hour to talk with each other, and then you would commit to, say, bringing that conversation online and maybe helping us keep it going.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Yeah.
Kyle, it's Emily from the Edible Schoolyard Project. I just was wondering if you could talk a little bit about if scholarships are offered. Question that's been asked in the past, or other programs that offer funding for individuals to come to the Academy.
Yeah. So we do have a small scholarship fund available. It is through the support of Acme Bread, which is a local baking company, and they have a storefront in Terminal 2 of San Francisco Airport that donates a portion of its proceeds to fund people to attend the Academy. Those funds are actually restricted to participants who are coming from California. That's where they want their donation to have impact. We have heard of people, getting really creative with how they raise money from, doing a sort of community-wide campaign or a school-wide campaign to sort of support the person and send the person, and that person has to go back and sort of do a presentation and share everything that they've learned. We've had PTAs give support. We've had lots of sort of participants kind of coordinate with each other and say, hey, let's stay together to save money. So, we do provide scholarships for people in the state of California, but people do need to find, a good source of funding to attend the training. Sorry, that's our school bell.
Kyle, I have one more question. It's Emily again. Can you talk about the materials that people might walk away with from the Academy? And, are they given a handbook or anything like that to get them started when they're there? Because I know there's so much information that's covered.
Sure. So we... the way that our internal process works for designing the Academy is that for every single session, there is a corresponding what we call take-home document. And typically that's something that we use throughout the training to refer to. So for a typical class in the kitchen, you would come into the classroom as if you were a student, and we would run through a lesson with you as if you were a student, and then we would sit and talk about the supporting documents that are in your binder for that. And those could be, choosing a recipe. So we've just prepared vegetable fried rice, but how is it that vegetable fried rice became the recipe that was made for 7th grade China lesson? And we talk about, the time constraints, how many jobs there are, is it flexible, is it specific, is it something that needs to be adapted? is it something that is easily made at home without fancy tools or equipment? There's a sort of, a checklist of things that we take into account when planning a recipe. So that would be a supporting document for a typical class in the kitchen, or a document about using aesthetics for education. So we use visual aids and visual representations of concepts that we're talking about in both the garden and the kitchen. So what is our theory of that? How do we decide what's on a visual aid, and how do we think that supports the learning environment for our students? So participants walk away with a 2-inch thick binder of curriculum materials and supporting documents from the content of the training. And this year they'll get even more curriculum materials, because our curriculum development that we've been working on over the last few years is going to be close to, if not completely, finished.
Thanks.
So if there aren't any other questions, then I will thank everyone for dialing in today and tell you all that I will be looking for your application, and I hope that we'll see it coming over the email soon. And I look forward to meeting you this summer.
Kyle, this is Rachel. I have one final question. For all email inquiries, you want us to send them to academy@edibleschoolyard.org?
Yes, please. academy@edibleschoolyard.org. And Christine Tennant, who's our administrative coordinator, is the goddess of that email account, and will be the person who you're coordinating with throughout the process. So as a reminder to you all, the process is that the application deadline is March 17th. We will take a little bit of time to review them all and give everyone a notification by April 12th, and then there'll be a registration and payment process, and we'll have final agenda, and kind of where to stay and where to eat, and what to bring, and here's all your maps, so that you come feeling really prepared to be here by the sort of end of May, beginning of June.
Great.
So, Jill, before I sign off, is there anything else that you would like to add?
Well, I would just tell everyone, I know that sometimes figuring out the fundraising can be daunting, and figuring out how to make it work with your schedule can be daunting, but I think that it's time well spent. And what you come back with inspired to do and partner with people in your community is well worth it. And we're still using the resources a year later to support our team. I just had a team member 3 days ago who didn't even know I was going to be on this call ask me how she could get out to the academy, and that was from an overview we sent 10 months ago, or 9 months ago. So it permeates in ways that you can't imagine until you get out there and do it. So I wish you all the best, and I hope that you have the same experience that we had.
Thank you so much, Jill, and thank you so much for calling in. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for the opportunity.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, everyone, take care. Have a great afternoon.
Thank you.
Bye.